So, let's start. Number 9. Crows, they hold grudges and teach their kids to hate you too. Crows aren't just loud goth pigeons. They're straight up geniuses with a flair for vengeance. Scientists found this out the hard way when they wore Halloween masks to capture some crows for tagging. The birds weren't amused, they remembered the faces behind the mask, and not just for a day or two. Years later, the same masked scientists walked through the same parks and the crows still recognized them and started dive bombing like they were reenacting a Hitchcock movie. But here's the wild part. Young crows who hadn't even been born yet joined in the attacks. That means the original birds literally taught their kids, see that face? That's the villain of our people. It's generational beef. These birds pass down trauma like family recipes. Crows also recognize individual human faces positively. If you feed them regularly, they'll remember you, follow you, and even bring gifts like shiny bottle caps or twigs shaped like keys. That's not just smart. That's Disney's sidekick with a loyalty arc, smart. Oh, and they use tools, real ones. Some crows bend wires into hooks to fish out food, others use sticks like chopsticks, and there's even evidence of crows trading shiny objects for snacks, basically inventing their own economy. So yeah, if you mess with a crow, it won't just fly away. It'll remember your face, warn its friends, raise its kids on your betrayal, and then possibly steal your parking spot, just to prove a point. Number 8. Octopuses, the escape artists with anxiety. Octopuses aren't just squishy sea blobs. They're oceanic masterminds with trust issues and a knack for prison breaks. In labs and aquariums, they've been caught slipping out of tanks, unscrewing jar lids, and even crawling across the floor to raid other fish tanks. Not by accident, on purpose. Take this case for example, Inky the octopus. He lived in a New Zealand aquarium until one night he pulled a full-on prison break, slipped through a gap in his tank, crawled across the floor, and slithered through a drain pipe 164 feet right back into the ocean. That's not instinct. That's Ocean's 11 with suction cups. Even weirder, octopuses seem aware they're trapped. They watch people, remember who handles them, and have been known to squirt water at their least favorite humans. They get bored too, like they'll stop eating or start messing with stuff in their tank if they're not mentally stimulated, basically throwing a tantrum until you give them a puzzle. And these aren't lifelong learners. Most octopuses only live a year or two. But in that time, they outsmart locks, learn patterns, and apparently develop opinions about aquarium staff. So next time you see one just chilling in a tank, remember, it's probably already figured out how to escape. It's just waiting for the drama to be worth it. Number 7, parrots understand context and might be talking behind your back. Parrots aren't just mimics. They understand what they're saying more than we give them credit for. Most people think parrots just repeat words like feathered tape recorders, but some species, like African gray parrots, can learn not just words, but meanings, context, and even emotions. There's a parrot named Alex who worked with scientists for 30 years. Alex could identify colors, count up to 8, and knew the difference between big and small. When asked, what color is the key? He'd say, green. And he wasn't just guessing, he got it right consistently. When he was tired, he'd say, want to go back? When he was annoyed, he'd say, no, not a squawk, just a no. But here's where it gets borderline spooky. Alex understood 0. That sounds simple, but think about it. That's an abstract concept. Most toddlers don't fully grasp 0. This bird did. Some parrots even talk with each other using human language. Owners have caught their parrots saying things like, be quiet or come here, not to humans, but to other parrots. One bird reportedly scolded its housemate with, no biting, be nice, which it definitely picked up from its human and decided to enforce. And let's be honest, if they can do that, who knows what they're saying when we're not around? There could be parrots out there roasting us with perfect diction while we're in the other room. Number 6, rats that learn to drive tiny cars for snacks. So picture this, a rat wearing no seatbelt, behind the wheel of a custom-built rat-sized car, just casually driving around a tiny enclosure to pick up snacks. Sounds like a Pixar short? Nope, it's actual science. Researchers at the University of Richmond built mini electric cars using plastic food containers on wheels with copper bars as a steering system. When the rats stood on the copper bars and touched them in specific combinations, they could steer the car forward, left, or right, and yes, they learned how to drive. Why? Because snacks. The rats quickly figured out that if they maneuvered the little vehicle to a designated zone, they get a Fruit Loop. And they didn't just stumble their way there. Over time, they became more skilled, more confident, and even more relaxed. Blood tests showed the rats who learned to drive had lower stress levels than rats who were just passengers or stuck in regular cages. This has blown up how scientists think about animal intelligence, because this wasn't just solving a puzzle. It was learning a completely new system of movement, coordinating limbs, remembering routes, and adapting to challenges, all with a walnut-sized brain. Even more bizarre, the rats seemed to enjoy it. They'd sometimes drive around without a reward just for the experience, which is weirdly human. Like, I don't need to go anywhere, I just want to feel the wind in my fur. So yeah, rats. They've seen your Uber rating, and they think they can do better. Number 5. Elephants hold funerals and may understand death. Elephants don't just trample through life with big ears and bigger feet. They might actually have emotional intelligence that's unsettlingly close to our own. These animals don't just notice when someone dies. They mourn, they grieve, they perform rituals. It's like they accidentally downloaded the Human Sadness expansion pack. In the wild, when an elephant stumbles upon the bones of a deceased herd member, even one that's been gone for years, it stops. It touches the bones with its trunk. Slowly, gently. It doesn't do this with any other animal's remains, only fellow elephants, and this happens across herds. Scientists have documented elephants walking miles to visit the site where a relative died, just to stand there in silence. Even stranger, they'll often cover the dead with branches, leaves, or dirt. They linger, sometimes for days. Mothers have been seen trying to lift dead calves, nudging them, refusing to leave. Other elephants will circle back to the body again and again like they're keeping vigil, and it's not just their own kind. There have been recorded cases where elephants showed this same quiet respect toward humans. In one instance, an elephant carried a dead woman's body to a nearby village. Another time, they visited the home of a man who used to care for them on the day of his death. No trainers, no calls, just showed up. What's going on in their massive heads? Are they grieving? Honoring the dead, experiencing something eerily close to empathy and ritual? It's the kind of behavior we associate with humans at their most soulful. And coming from an animal that can recognize itself in a mirror and remember friends decades later, it's hauntingly beautiful. Number 4. Bees can count, tell time, and solve puzzles. Bees. Literal insect accountants. These tiny striped sugar rockets can count up to 4, understand the concept of 0, and even grasp basic math, like addition and subtraction. That's already more than a few people I've seen panic at a cash register. In a study, scientists trained bees using colored shapes. Blue meant add 1, yellow meant subtract 1. Bees were able to apply those rules to new problems and get the right answers. That's right, bees solving math word problems while you're still using a calculator for tip percentage, and it gets deeper. Bees also understand time. They can remember when flowers were most likely to have nectar and visit them at the correct hour, like clockwork. That's a mental calendar and a working GPS in a brain the size of a sesame seed. They can even play games. In another study, bees were taught to roll a tiny ball into a goal, like bug soccer, to get a reward. They weren't trained by rote. They watched other bees and learned the game socially. So while we think of them as mindless stingers, bees are out here running tiny logic puzzles, keeping time, and solving mini golf challenges, and they're doing it with 6 legs and no Wi-Fi. Number 3, pigs can use joysticks and might beat you at Pong. Pigs are often dismissed as dirty and dumb, but turns out they might be smarter than your cousin who still can't figure out how to pair Bluetooth headphones. In one experiment, scientists trained pigs to use a joystick with their snouts to play a video game, like a piggy version of Pong. They moved a cursor around a screen trying to hit targets, and they actually got better over time. And not just randomly hitting buttons, they were making intentional movements, responding to visual cues and clearly understanding the goal of the game. And here's the kicker: the screen was designed for primates. Pigs weren't supposed to be good at this. Their vision isn't even ideal for screens, but they still figured it out. That's like you playing Tetris on a cracked microwave and still winning. Beyond gaming, pigs also understand reflection, can follow commands, and have been observed using tools like sticks to dig or manipulate objects. They even respond to names and have excellent long-term memory. One study showed pigs could remember where food was hidden months later. So maybe don't be so quick to call someone a pig. That pig might be out here completing side quests in real life while you're forgetting where you parked. Number 2, dogs can smell diseases and maybe your mood swings. We all know dogs are smart, loyal, and low-key better than most people, but what really pushes them into too smart for their own good territory is their nose. Dogs can detect cancer, diabetes, seizures, and even COVID before machines can. How? Their noses are biological supercomputers. A dog's sense of smell is estimated to be between 10,000 to 100,000 times more sensitive than a human's. They can sniff out individual molecules in a sea of odor. That's like finding a single drop of blood in an Olympic swimming pool, blindfolded. In one study, dogs were trained to sniff urine samples from patients and were able to detect bladder cancer with nearly 90% accuracy. Some can even alert diabetics to changes in blood sugar before the person feels symptoms. That's not a trick. That's life-saving diagnostic technology on 4 legs, and they're not just reading your scent. Dogs read your face, your tone, your posture. They can tell if you're sad, scared, or sick. They adjust their behavior depending on your emotional state, and yes, some studies suggest they can even catch your yawns out of empathy. Basically, dogs are emotional support units, early warning systems, and undercover medics, all wrapped in a fuzzy meatloaf with legs, and they still let you think you're the boss. Number 1. Slime molds can solve mazes without a brain. Yes, you read that right. No nervous system, no neurons, not even a brain cell. Just a squishy blob of living goo that can solve mazes. Slime molds are bizarre single-celled organisms that look like alien mucus. They live in forests, crawl over logs, and basically do whatever a pulsating puddle of yellow logic wants. But here's the catch. Despite being basically sentient jello, slime molds can solve problems that stump some animals, including us. In one experiment, scientists put food at 2 ends of a maze and let the slime mold loose. Not only did it find the quickest path, it started optimizing that path over time, trimming unnecessary branches like a living GPS algorithm, and it gets weirder. Slime molds, remember, if you expose one to a bitter chemical, it avoids it next time. That's like if your leftover spaghetti suddenly remembered where your Wi-Fi dead zones are. They even mapped out the Tokyo railway system with slime mold. No joke. Researchers placed food sources where cities are located, and the mold created a network that nearly mirrored the efficiency of Japan's real train lines. So yeah. Somewhere in the woods, there's a living puddle with 0 thoughts, no goals, and no organs, just vibes and problem-solving skills, and somehow it's still doing better than some of us before coffee. Thank you for watching and sticking till the end. We've got plenty more videos coming in the future. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss them. See you in the next one.